All right, so today, we have Chief Rob Lucchese, who came to talk to you. What he's here to chat about is, should there be an active shooter drill here? What should you do? Now, I wouldn't want to say that there's going to be one next week. That would be wrong to announce, but it will. When there is, a couple things I just want to say before Chief takes over. We did this, some of you remember we did this a few years ago, and there were some things that didn't work perfect. And since then we made a few changes. One of them, we have a much better system to instantly notify you of things that are happening. The system we used to have, it would notify you sometimes about an hour later. So the system we have now, it really does notify you instantly by phone call, by email, and text message. And we get a printout, or we get a report of who got what notice. And it called you and didn't answer. So we know that it's working. And it takes the longest time of some of those, of like 40 seconds. So it works really well. It only works if we have your number and your information. So if you've gotten a new cell phone, we don't know it. So if you've gotten a new cell phone, make sure you tell concierge what your new cell phone number is, so that you get the notice right away, or if you changed email addresses or whatever. All right? So when something happens, such as an active shooter situation, one of the ways that we will tell you that there is an issue is through that system. So make sure you have your information right. The other thing that we've done is we have a system where all the telephones in the complex, they turn into speakers. So if somebody at concierge grabs a phone and will say something, it'll come loud on the speaker and all the telephones in Woodland Pond. We had that system with the last phone system, but like a lot of things, it didn't work that great. The new phone system, the new phones, it works really well. So we have a lot more ways of notifying people of emergency situations. I don't want to ask questions, but I just want to get off quickly, let the chief take over, and then let him explain some things of what to do and not do in an active shooter situation, and then you can ask questions, and if the questions you ask are something he should answer, he'll answer. If there's something that I should answer, and I know the answer, I'll tell you. If not, I'll blame Rob. And not this Rob, the Rob I always blame. What? No, the other Rob's usually his fault most of the time. All right, so without any further ado, people say, Chief Rob Lucchese.
All right. So, like Mr. Tango said, my name is Rob Lucchese. My name is Rob Lucchese. I'm with the New Paltz Police Department. Can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. I will. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, I'm gonna keep trying. So I just want to look at some of the notes, make sure I cover everything. So, as Mr. Tango said, we have been working on the emergency preparedness plans for Woodland Pond for quite some time. We started this, some of you may have been in the room 2-3 years ago when we had a similar educational program like this, where we talked a little bit about what to do in an emergency situation, what not to do in an emergency situation, and all of that is geared towards better preparing you all as residents, the staff here, as well as informing you about what to expect should the police, the fire department, or other agencies respond to a critical incident here at Woodland Pond. when we talk about active shooter, but there are a lot of different critical incidents that would necessitate the response of law enforcement, rescue, and fire, as well as other agencies. So this isn't just about active shooter, but that is part of the focus here. And what I'm going to talk a little bit about is applied to all of these situations. First and foremost, like piggyback off of what Tom said, is the communication systems that are in place now are improved from when we tried this or when we had a drill here a couple of years ago. And that's important. The first thing that breaks down in any crisis is communication. And I cannot stress how important it is for all of you to make sure your contact information, especially your cell phones, are up to date with concierge or any other department here that they need to be. If something happens here, they're going to get the information to you, and it's important that they have that contact information and that you not call into their lines. One of the reasons they want to have your information is they will broadcast out what you need to know, and avoid tying up the incoming lines at the front desk from you, from your apartments or any of the other rooms that you may be in, asking what's going on. One of the things we want to make sure is that we're keeping you informed, we're keeping you safe. If you're informed, then you're able to better make decisions when it comes to your safety, and that's an important thing. So again, make sure your contact information is up to date with that. Before I get into what to do or what not to do, is just to talk a little bit about what to maybe expect when you have a critical incident. This is a large complex. This place is huge. And so if there was anything critical happening here, whether it be an active shooter or a natural emergency, a natural man-made disaster, or something having to do with the building, the response would be not just from the New Paltz Police Department or just the New Paltz Fire Department or Rescue Squad. You may have Mobile Life Rescue. You may have multiple ambulance corps. You may have multiple fire departments, and you're certainly going to have multiple law enforcement agencies that are going to be responding to this location. And chaos is probably the best word for it. I mean, I've experienced it firsthand. When you have a critical incident like that, especially if you're talking about an act of violence, it's chaotic even on our end. And so you'll understand that. Information may not be forthcoming right away. The only piece of information you may get right away is shelter in place, or avoid shelter in place, avoid coming down the lobby. You may get a small snippet. Just take that and understand that Tom or Cameron or any other people here will get you more information as time allows. But in an incident, a critical incident, it's a dynamic incident. Things are changing constantly, and new information comes in, and we're trying to assess what we have, potentially stop a threat, or attend to an emergency situation if we're dealing with fire or something like that. So it's really important that the first thing you do when you get that information is to, I would say, stay where you're at. Unless you are in danger, so if you're in your apartment or your house or in a room here, stay there. If you get that emergency alert, stay in place unless there is a threat, unless you are facing imminent danger, stay where you're at. That's what we really want you to do first and foremost. You don't know if you're running into danger. You may be going from someplace safe like your apartment down to the lobby to see what's going on, which may be the most dangerous place to be. And we want to avoid that. Not to mention, there are going to be a lot of emergency service workers that are going to be coming in, and you make it easier for them by just staying in your apartment or staying in whatever room that you are in at the moment. So if we had something going on now, unless the threat was here, we would want you to stay here in this room so that we can better assess what's going on. We account for the people that we have here, and then we move on from there. Again, I'm just looking at my notes here that I put one of the things, especially, I've said it again, once before, but say it again, is you will get information. Please try not to tie up the phone lines here inside the facility. There may not be anybody at concierge, or the person at concierge may be getting us vital information and not be able to pick up the phone and answer your phone call. Don't come down to the lobby. If you're in your apartment and something is going on, as long as the danger isn't in your apartment, you're safe. Emergency services will get to you, but you're safe right there. Oh, sorry. Okay. Better? All right, you got it. So, as I was saying, is don't leave where you're at unless it is absolutely unsafe. If you are in your apartment and that is where and you're safe there, and the threat isn't there, stay there. We will provide you with updated information, let you know when it's all safe to come out, or what may have happened, and also inform you as to what happened. But we really want to make sure that you're not going to someplace that may be less safe than where you're at. As I said with communication, when I say we, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the personnel that may come here to the facility, we're going to be working with the staff here, primarily with Tom, Cameron, and anybody else in the facilities, to make sure, number one, this complex is safe before we leave. We will endeavor to really keep the lines of communication open. If we need to evacuate this facility for some reason, there are procedures in place, and those will be communicated to you as well. You have to have faith in the staff here, that they know what they're doing, that the procedures that they have in place work, and that they have your safety first and foremost in their minds, and try to avoid the first inclination of coming down or trying to get involved in something, because that can only make matters worse as far as we're concerned from law enforcement's perspective. Tom, and how about we just start with any questions? We'll start with anybody has any questions. Yes, sir.
If I'm the first threatened person, I'm sleeping in my bed and somebody breaks into my apartment, who do I contact first? Concierge, 911? What do I do?
I would contact 911 first and foremost, and then if you're able to make that call to concierge, do that on a secondary level. The reason I say that is your call to 911 goes right to emergency response. Concierge phone, unless I'm wrong, would be calling concierge, and then concierge is to call 911, and then 911 dispatches the police. That's the most direct communication. But also contacting concierge so they know, if you're able to, that hey, the police are coming. I called 911, the police are coming here. Yes, ma'am. Thanks, Karen.
We have emergency call buttons or strings in the bathroom. We have a PERS. Wouldn't that be the quickest way to contact the concierge?
Yes, when you pull that, then the concierge or reception or security is going to see that, and you're right, that would be the fastest way to let somebody know, but they don't know what the issue is. So, using Mr. Ordner's thing, if somebody's in your apartment that shouldn't be, then I would say, like the chief said, call the police right away. Don't build in that delay, because if you pull your purse down at concierge reception, all they know is that you pulled your purse, and somebody's going to come up, but they don't know why. So by the time security gets there and sees and then calls the police, you wasted a long time. So it's a good question Mr. Ordner asked, and like the chief said, never hesitate to call the police. But if it's something like that would warrant a police response, yeah.
the reality for me would be that I'd be so frightened that I wouldn't be able to do anything. What would you advise? I mean, can you imagine having somebody next to you or near you, a stranger?
I cannot imagine that, and if you can't physically, because of the trauma you're experiencing in the moment, make that call, then, but you're able to press the button on that pendant, then
Do that.
yes, do that. You know, the question here is what's the best? You know, what's the best situation, the best option? The best option is make that call during the 911. If you can't, and you happen to remember to be able to depress a panic button or hold the alert that gets to concierge right away, do that. And understandably, you may not ever be able to do anything. I understand what you're saying.
I know concierge closes after 9 o'clock. Would a phone call, emergency phone call, still get to them?
Yes, whenever concierge closes, the phones automatically roll over to reception, that's there till 11, and then security comes in at 11 until 7. So 24/7, someone's gonna answer the phone. Like I've also always told people, if it's 2 in the morning and your kitchen cabinet door doesn't close right, if you wanna call security at 2 in the morning and report that, go right ahead. Because the security guy is gonna listen to you and hear what the problem is, and he's gonna put a work order in. You don't need to wait until until security opens, until the concierge opens up. So same thing, kitchen cabinet door doesn't work right, somebody's invading your apartment, either one, call, and 24/7, somebody will handle it.
Which one's a 911 call?
Depends how big the cabinet door is.
I have a question for Tom Tango. You mentioned that all of the the Woodland Pond telephones turned into speakers. Are you talking about the ones on the public areas, or are you talking also about our own personal Spectrum phones?
Good question. I'm not talking about the ones in your apartment. No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
only talking about the ones in the public areas
Okay.
and in offices and things like that. But for a good question, don't mean in the apartments. No.
Okay.
And just to piggyback off that, that's why it's really important that they have updated communication with you. They have your cell phone numbers. They have a way to get information to you in as real time as possible. Because if you're not in a position where you can hear one of those speakers and know what's going on, then the phone, you're having a cell phone or some other way to contact you, a apartment phone is going to be very important for you all.
Chief, my question is, you mentioned the ways people will be communicated with. Cell phone, telephone, text, computer, all of those require electricity. They require them to be on. The systems that operate to do that also require electricity. And given what happened with Ian down in Fort Myers, what's the plan if there are no electronic means of getting information to people?
Another good question. The systems that we have in place, our telephone system, the SARA system, SARA, that sends the notices, those are all on our emergency generator. So if we lose power here, those systems still operate. The PERS buttons still operate. People at reception and concierge will get the notice. The notices that we send out will still go out. If you have your cell phone off, then no, you're not going to get it, no. And like when I said before, we did a drill, we identified things that we needed to correct, And we did. We corrected the phone system, we corrected the notification system. I'm sure that if there happens to be a drill next week, that at the end of that, when we sit with the chief and his people and our people, we're gonna identify other things that need improved. So, you know, it isn't that we're ever at an end point, we're just gonna keep on getting, finding things. So, an issue of what, a better notification is something we still need to work on. But for right now, we're markedly better than we were. The systems that are in place will operate in the event of a power failure, that we know. Because we do have the emergency generator. And, you want,
What kind of security do you have before somebody even gets in the building? In other words, the premises?
Here in Woodland Pond, the security during the day is the concierge desk and the reception desk. And they see who comes in and out. At night, the doors are locked and the security is on. Also, and this is a big thing, I have about 475 security personnel who live here. So if you see something, let us know. And I'm sure the chief could stress that. Don't believe, if you see somebody that doesn't belong here, don't believe that or don't think maybe somebody else called about it. Call concierge, call security. If it's somebody really nefarious, then call 911. But don't believe that somebody else did it. And that's the best thing. And not just whether it's something that's a work order, a door is loose, the stair is loose. Don't believe that somebody else told us. If you see it, tell us. If it's a security issue, it's even more important. If you see something, let people know.
Chief Lucchese, I have a question for you. How would you characterize your viewpoint on the crime environment at Woodland Pond? Would you characterize it as a dangerous place based on your reports, or do you get a lot of reports about things or concerns? Can you let us know how you would characterize it, please?
No, I would not consider crime a significant issue here at Woodland Pond, and the crime that we deal with primarily is theft crime. If we deal with and get reports, if there isn't, we don't do theft crime, property crimes. We don't, to my knowledge, we have not had any type of personal crime or personal injury crime here involving a resident in my time, to my recollection. So it's really, we do get those reports and they're few and far between, and deal primarily with property theft.
And I'll just add to that. So it doesn't happen a lot. So if we do have it, it's someone that thinks something went missing. I want to say on the record with all of us present that if any of you ever thinks something went missing, we want you to engage with the police department. We are not the police. So if you think something went missing from your little shelf outside of your door or from your apartment, we are going to encourage you to file a police report or to contact the police. Because again, we are not the police department. We want you to have the same access to the resources. So if you come to us with that kind of a complaint, please do not be surprised if we recommend contacting the New Paltz Police Department. It does not happen often.
If I could, before I take another question, the gentleman's question there regarding notification. Yes, primarily we use electronic form, electronic mediums to communicate information. If in the event those mediums you're disabled here, or even on our end, we would, if necessary, go door to door. But that goes back to my earlier point about not leaving your apartment. If the danger is not there with you in that apartment, that's a safe place to be. If we're dealing with a large-scale power outage or some sort of emergency here that's not violence-related, even you coming out of your apartment to see what's going on because you can't contact, that can potentially disrupt the emergency services personnel that are responding. If you're safe in your apartment, then you're safe in your apartment. Now, if there is a medical emergency that you are suffering in that moment, then yes, get help, get out of there. If we're talking about active violence, and it's there, then get out. But I would encourage you, stay in that apartment in those scenarios, and we will get you what information we can. And just know, if you were in danger, we would come get you. And especially when we talk about active violence, we're coming in here and we're looking to stop that threat. This is a huge, huge complex. It makes it more difficult for us and a greater danger for you all to be wandering around the hallways to see what's going on. The officers that are coming in here don't know who the threat is. They don't. And having more people there make it difficult for us to, number one, maybe discern potential threats, but number two, engage with a possible threat. And we had an active shooter situation in the village of New Paltz back in 2001, and one of the difficulties law enforcement had was engaging that individual who was armed with an assault rifle. And one of the reasons for that were he was only looking to engage with us, and too many civilians were around him, and it made it difficult for us to engage and stop his actions. And so when we talk about something like that, having you wandering the hallways doesn't help. But even in a non-violence related, violent related emergency, wandering around the hallways could impede fire or rescue as well.
What you said is very clear. However, if somebody burst into this room or the dining room with a shooting, what do we do?
You have a choice, fight or run. That's your choice. You fight or run. But that means the threat is right there. But if all of a sudden a code went out that there's a lockdown and it's not right here, the last thing we want you to do is clear this room to potentially run into danger. And it's similar to what we do with the school districts. The first thing we do with school districts and lockdowns, we teach them that we want you to lock down in your classroom. We want you to shut the door, we want you to hide. If that threat comes to that door, well, now you have a choice. You either fight or run. And if you can't run, then you fight. But if your first inclination is to just, I'm going to go to the lobby and see what's going on, or I'm going to walk around and see what's going on, you could be literally walking into that danger and that threat.
My question is about fight. What if we're walking with our walker and somebody attacks us? What's the best way to protect yourself? We can't kick, because then we'll fall on our you-know-what. What do you really do? And you get frightened, you can't even scream, because you're not expecting the attack. What's the best way for a senior citizen to protect themselves and fight back?
I would say the best way for anyone, including senior citizens, is be vigilant. Be vigilance. It's preemptive. It's, in responding in the moment, I can't tell you what to do. I mean, it's what you're capable of in that moment when that threat exists. And so, for example, for the police, they teach us these defensive tactics. They teach you holes and all of these different things. I've had several occasions where I have been attacked in this job, and what it boils down to is my will to fight. And all of the things they taught me, to some extent, went out the window, and all I was looking at is physically overpowering the individual who was a threat to me.
But we can't really do that.
And I know you can't do that,
Can't
but I would say
overpower
you
them.
do
You'd
the.
be pretty sad if we could overpower them.
You're right, but and I can't overpower all people. The point I'm trying to make is you do whatever you can.
Why?
That's whatever you can.
Should you punch somebody in the nose? I mean, there's got to be spots that
You are being
we don't
attacked.
have the strength that the person attacking us has.
Right.
What do you do?
You do whatever you can. You attack in whatever way you possibly can. If you're going to strike, yes, vulnerable entities. If it's a man and you can kick him in the groin or hit him in the groin, yes, do that. I mean, if you're being attacked, then you do whatever you need to do. That's the short end of it. Whatever you're capable of in that moment. But I go back to what I talk about with vigilance. You know, being aware of your surroundings. You know, being aware of who's around you, where you are, maybe walking with people, the type of road or area that you're walking. You know, these are all things that you can do as well. But in that moment, all I can tell you is you do whatever you have to do.
What if you have a gun?
If you're a licensed firearms
Yes.
owner, you would have to be the judge of whether or not that's the situation. And then ultimately, the police come, we investigate those matters, the district attorney reviews those matters, and that would be a determination whether or not that use of deadly physical force was justified or not.
Oh, I think the best thing to do is to fall on the floor. But I really have a question for Tom, and it has to be about security. Is there any way we can halt the practice of workmen and delivery people who prop open the door next to the library with a big stone and have it open all the time they're working here?
Yes.
It seems to
If
me
you
that
see-
is
if-
very
If you see that, if you see that, can that happen sometimes? Yeah. Do I mind if that happens while they're actively doing it? No. But if they're moving stuff in and they're leaving that door open and unattended for a period of time, no. And that's where I go back to, if you see that, call concierge and tell them. Because maybe I'm walking by, I didn't see it. Maybe my guys didn't see it. So if you see that, let me know. Let us know. Because no, I don't want that. I don't want that for security reasons. I don't want that for HVAC reasons. I don't want that for a lot of reasons. And the people who are coming in and out, they should have the badge that lets them scan in and out. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for them. But again, we need to know it.
People moving in furniture probably don't have a badge, and that's open a long time.
The people who are moving in furniture, if they come to concierge like they're supposed to, they get a badge. They do have a badge. And again, I don't mind if it's, like if I go by and I see the truck right there, I see people coming in, and I see they're doing it, fine. But what I don't like is when I go by and I see the door open, the moving truck just went to lunch, and no one's there. That I don't want, no. So if you see stuff, call concierge, it's fine.
What about just closing the door? Taking the stone away and closing it?
Or just close the door. If you close the door yourself, fine. Take the rock out, close the door. I don't care. That's fine.
I have a two-part question for the chief.
Okay.
First question, how early can we expect help when the call is put in? And number two, how many officers will respond in the event of an active shooting incident?
Well, in terms of your first question, it would depend upon the nature of the call. So what I mean by that is if you're calling because you're calling to report the theft of something, we would, depending upon what calls we're on, we would send an officer when one was available. So if officers were tied up on a call, you may have to wait 15 or so minutes. But if you're talking about a medical emergency or some sort of critical incident, then we're coming when we can. We're coming right away. In terms of an active shooter here, what numbers? I don't even know. I mean, you would have hundreds. I mean, you would have law enforcement officers from probably every municipality in this county, probably members from adjoining counties, as well as emergency services members from the Ulster County team, the New York State Police team, the DEP team. I couldn't give you a number, but I can just tell you something like that would bring an overwhelming response. And so it goes back to what I say about communication chaos. we try our best to practice these things with the agencies in our area. But if I have law enforcement from Dutchess or Orange, or maybe even from other parts in Ulster County that are not really adjacent to New Paltz, we don't communicate on the same system all the time. And so, those are things we have to figure out. So there is some chaos on our end as well. And that's why I say you keeping the phone systems here as free as possible helps us do our job.
I live in I don't live in a ground floor apartment, so this frankly hadn't really occurred to me, even though I've been here 6 years, until just the other day. I saw some of the workmen working on refurbishing our little local bank branch, and yes, they're taking stuff in and out by the doors. They're also passing stuff through the window. So if you have a ground floor apartment, prevention is the best cure. And you need to keep your windows locked, and you need to keep your patio door locked, I would like to suggest.
I think those are a great idea, and the only thing I'll add to that is if you live on the first floor, remember, if that threat is near your apartment, you have an excellent way to get out of your apartment, rather than come to the lobby.
I just want to add a note of comfort. I think it was last winter, about 10 or 11 o'clock, I saw a guy out on the street outside my cottage who was either having a mental breakdown or he was thoroughly drunk. And I watched his behavior, his very, very erratic behavior. And then I called the concierge, and she and I had a little chat. And we decided that she needed to call the security staff, and I would call 911. And sure enough, in about 5 or 10 minutes, a staff car pulled up and started a conversation with the guy. And then a New Paltz cop showed up and completed the investigation. And it was, in fact, a guy who was supposed to be shoveling snow, but there was no snow to shovel, and he was doing these very, very strange things. But the system worked very nicely. I called the concierge to see if there was anything she could add to what I was seeing, and she and I developed a plan, implemented the plan, and it worked. Everything was fine. So I just hope this is comforting for people to understand that the local police is responsive. They do show up and take care of the problem.
Good job. Good job.
If there is an active shooter, should we go into our bathroom so we're not near any windows?
I would say if there was a lockdown here or some sort of threat, I would stay away from your door. Stay away from, depending on where you are, yes, you may want to stay away from windows, but it depends on, a lot of it depends on where the threat is. If you're on a third floor, I would say more often than not, you want to just stay away from that bedroom door. We talk about active shooter threats, but there are other violent threats. You could have somebody who's having, who's having a mental health crisis, who's here and using an edged weapon, a knife of some sort, to commit an act of violence. So just staying secure in your apartment, locking your locks, and just staying there, I think is the best thing.
Are you not allowed to have, let's say, cameras around the area and the front door, the desk? Is that privacy issues for the residents? Is that why you can't have them?
You mean can Woodland Pond have them?
Well, I'm just saying, let's say you had a camera at the front entrance. I don't know if you can do that.
You mean Woodland Pond's front entrance or your apartment?
No, not my apartment. I'm not worried about my apartment.
At Woodland Pond's front entrance, we can. And we have recently begun discussions of that, yes. But we don't right this minute, no.
This is not a concern about what happens here at Woodland Pond, but I think it is a concern about the safety of our residents that might be out on the road at night. On Sunday night, about 7:30, I was trying to cross from South Putt to North Putt. The light going across 299 Main Street, the light was flashing red on my side, flashing yellow on the other side. There were bikers trying to get to the bike trail crossing the street. It was a very serious situation. There was no way I could go straight across the traffic. Called 911 at that point and was given an answer like, we'll report it. We took the roundabout. I was with my daughter. We took the roundabout way to get back here to Woodland Pond by making a right and a left and so on. When I got back here, I discovered another resident had reported that same incident maybe 40 minutes before I reported it. My daughter went back probably another 20 minutes to try to go through that light. Nothing was done. 2 reports to 911, a very dangerous situation to get across a very busy highway on a holiday weekend night. What should we have done? Driving. But there were bikers. There were young people with their bicycles trying to also get across to the bike path.
I think you did what you had to do. You called an emergency contact number. Understand that Department of Transportation has to come out and respond to that, fix that light. So normally when that happens, you'll call 911 or you call us directly. Either way, a phone call is made to New York State DOT. The outage is reported, a team is dispatched to correct that problem. Their response time depends upon what's going on, and we don't have any control over that. 911 doesn't have any control over that, but we certainly convey that information to them and make them aware of what's going on.
So that means the police department right down the road has to wait until they hear from transportation to send somebody?
We have to wait for transportation, yes, to send somebody to fix it. We have no ability to fix those traffic lights.
Now, I'm not talking about fixing. I'm talking about a patrolman out there directing traffic.
We don't have the resources to do that. So Sunday night, I have 2 officers to patrol 42 square miles. And I don't have the resources to staff someone at that intersection. And there were a couple intersections that were out that night. We are aware of that, but we were also answering calls for service. We don't have the staffing levels to put somebody out there in order to do that.
Thank goodness I didn't get killed.
Also, I just want to say, we're going to wrap up in about 10 minutes, so, all right.
I understand very well the importance of staying put, but suppose the alarm goes out and we are in transit between apartments or between the dining hall and our apartment. We're caught in the hallway. Do we knock on the door of the nearest apartment or head home to our own?
I would say it depends on where you are in relation to your apartment. If you're close to your apartment and you don't see that threat, yes, try to get into your apartment. If you hear commotion or whatever, and you're in close proximity to what you think is the threat, then try to find someplace else to be, or see if you can get outside and find a place to go outside of the main facility. It's hard for me to tell you everything you should do. What I would say is do the thing. What we're encouraging you to do is not put yourself in harm's way unnecessarily. So if you are in transit from the dining hall to your apartment and you believe that what is taking place is behind you, proceed. or find an exit to get out of the building. But don't turn around where you think that that incident may be taking place, because that's unnecessarily putting yourself into that.
And the other thing I would add, if something happens and everybody's in the dining hall, everybody's eating lunch, dinner, until told otherwise, stay in the dining room. Don't everybody leave the dining room, try to go home, just stay there. Because if we had an active shooter drill next week, what if it happened at lunchtime? And we want everybody to stay in the dining room until other instructions are given. Because like Chief said, you could be, if everybody leaves the dining room and heads to their apartment, that's just gonna clog up the hallway, so stay in the dining room. Right? Any other questions, the Chief? All right, take these two and then we want to wrap up.
It's not a question, referring back to if you were attacked, what would you do? And you would panic and just stand there. You got the greatest weapon, like you said, you're in a walker. Pick that walker up and shove it into the person. That's your defense.
This is a suggestion for reflection. When firemen come in full regalia, they look and sound like Darth Vader. And it can be very frightening. And it might be smart when you have a fire drill, especially in memory care, to have them come that way and present themselves so we're kind of used to it.
Good point.
Anybody else?
Can you repeat that? I didn't understand what he was saying.
That's it, thank you. All right, I would say thank you. Again, I'm not saying there's going to be an active shooter drill, but there might be. And if there is, stay where you are until told otherwise. And also, the other thing I would say real quick, remember a couple years ago we had Chief Corey Worthman from the fire department here, who said the same thing. In the event of a fire, stay where you are. Obviously, if that doesn't mean if the fire is where you are, then leave. But if there's you hear the fire alarm, stay where you are. Real quick. All right. Real quick.
This is just a suggestion. If we had pepper spray, or no? Why not?
Everybody pepper spraying now.
Okay.
I'm not going to take what you use personally.
Okay, so we'll protect ourselves as we think. Okay, I don't have a gun or a knife.
Within bond policies and also for chief.
Okay, I do have an alarm though on, I have a little noise maker. Yeah, and I could just press it.
You can press that, and pepper spray. I don't know what the rules are here on Woodland Pond, but pepper spray is legal to possess. Legal, it is legal.
Chief, first of all, I now having the police department and the fire department, I feel very safe on your response time, and I want to thank the town, the decisions that were made to have you move your office, as well as the fire department, as close to that we have. Okay? Good job.